Hey everyone, welcome back to the Financing Simplified Podcast. Once again, my name is Anthony Venuto with InTouch Mortgage Solutions, and today I am joined by a very special guest, someone that it gives me great honor to have on the channel as well. Not only is he a realtor, but he's a good friend, so I want to introduce Daniel Sessa to the podcast. Daniel, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. We do a lot of work together, I would say behind the scenes, but not too much on camera.
All right.
So this is nice to be here. My name is Daniel Sessa. I am a part of Team Sessa Real Estate. Team Sessa Real Estate is me, my father Santo, my mom Sonia, and that forms our real estate team. We have a YouTube channel that you can check out. It's Team Sessa Real Estate, where we do market reports. And yeah.
You know, it's funny that you, like ourselves, were both in the family business. If you noticed that, right? So we're my brother, my mother, and myself, and you're a family business. So I think that's sort of the connection there. That is nice to understand that, you know what, at some point everyone's got your back because it's family.
Exactly. I think we're very fortunate to be in a family business like these.
It is, and especially through the last little while, it has evolved, it has changed, and I wanted to sort of throw this or lob this question out there. How do you, being behind the scenes, seeing the operation, being in a family real estate environment, how has that sort of, maybe shaped you as a, young entrepreneur getting into the industry?
You know what? It's given me a lot of great insight. I've personally been a part of real estate for a very long time. I would say most of my working career. Before working with my dad, my mom, I was working at a real estate law firm, and before that, my parents were both still agents, and so real estate's been kind of in our blood for a very long time. And it's given me a lot of insight. It's given me some, I would say, more insight into the things that can go wrong in transactions that a lot of people don't necessarily think about, if that makes sense. There are I was thinking about it on the drive here. There was a transaction we did a few days ago that just the way a certain condition was worded was the determining factor of our client being able to get out of that deal, right? And because they were able to do that, and I think about it, and I'm just like, as a young realtor, I would not have known to do that, right? For someone like my dad that's been doing it for years, it's second nature. But as a young realtor, I'm thinking, a lot of people probably would have missed this. A lot of agents probably would have missed something like this. So, I think I'm very fortunate to be, to have the kind of, I guess we'll say, mentorship, leadership that I do. Because it gives me great insight into the market, gives me great insight into agreements, gives me great insight into virtually every part of real estate, right?
So basically what you're saying is being surrounded by this conversation probably on a regular basis. I'm assuming probably at the dinner table.
Yeah.
Like us, always. It's always there.
Always.
I think it just harks back to the point that you need to surround yourself with like-minded people, because we learn through experience. I believe that is the key. And the more you're immersed in that environment, the more you actually pick up without even knowing.
Exactly.
And I remember this with my wife. We, said, like, when my mother would cook, I was somewhere else. But we'd always make that pass by, and you'd be like, oh, she's doing this and doing that. And I'm like, okay, no problem. And you pick up these little things that, like, when I go to cook now, it's like you sort of inherently do these things. And much like you're saying, like these little words and these conditions that you're putting in, like if someone who doesn't know necessarily what they're doing, they're going to learn through trial by fire.
Exactly.
And if you're surrounded by a family or a team that's there to support you, you know what? You're probably not going to, you may make that mistake, but most likely you have that support system behind you. Say, hey, wait a minute. Let me overlook this. Like, and that's exactly how we started. Like, I didn't touch a deal for the first 2 years of being in the industry. I sat there and I listened to my mother. I, sat through these conversations with lenders and just literally absorbed. So I don't want to make a mistake. And that's the beauty about being in the family environment. So with that being said, being in the family environment, I guess you would have a different perspective on real estate. right? As opposed to someone who doesn't have that upbringing or that
Yes.
conversation. Tell me a little bit about it.
Well, I think that the perspective that I have on real estate is definitely kind of formed by what I've seen, and I think of people trying to get into real estate without having any type of background. It's tough. It's a tough place to be, and it's possible. Like we just spoke about it off camera here. I think there's enough business for everyone, but it's a tough industry to get into without really knowing anything. I think you kind of have to join a team to get to understand the intricacies of real estate, because you don't learn that. I mean, the same way with I'm sure with your mortgage, when you go get your mortgage broker license, they don't teach you most of the stuff that you actually practice every day. And that's the same thing with your real estate license. They don't teach you most of the stuff that you actually practice every day. You learn that in the field, right?
It is. It's an experience-based industry. The longer you're submersed in it, the more you pick up, the more things you learn. And you're 100% right with that. Like, as for many people, they want to get into real estate. Mm-hmm. They do. Sometimes they don't know where to start.
Yeah.
And I always say the same thing when I relate it back to my personal experience, like as a person that graduated from teachers college. I probably wanted nothing to do with finance after I left the finance industry, because I'm like, I'm done with finance. But there was a part of me that's always there because our family background, my aunt, my cousins, everyone is in banking. Mm-hmm. So with that, it's like those conversations are constantly around the table, and it's almost like we're never escaping it. And I mean, to some degree, it's like my wife and sometimes my sister-in-law, they'll be like, you guys are always talking about mortgages, right? You're always talking about finance. Like, because that's us. Like, that's the passion. And I know that from you, is when we talk, it is a passion for you, and it is to do with the upbringing, has a lot to do with the back end support system. And you're right, when you go through the courses, no one's going to teach you a lot of the things that you're going to learn on the street, actually grinding and doing these deals. So as someone who's entering, as someone who's getting their I don't want to say feet wet, but I mean, we all have to go through, and we're still learning. As I said, even as being 15 years in this industry, I still have a lot to learn. Like, we're learning every single day. And I think it's important that, not only for us, but even the viewers to understand the journey. A lot of people may look at the real estate and say, I love real estate. I would love to get my license. I would love to do it. But a lot of people don't realize the struggles that actually go in that. And,
Oh, yeah. I mean, when it comes, it's funny. You'll speak to people that'll kind of just randomly say, oh, you know what, I have, my sister's thinking of moving, and then she's going to sell her place, buy something else. And then I have a cousin who's thinking of moving. And so maybe I'm thinking of getting my real estate license. I think, I'll have a couple deals under my belt, stuff like that. And I just keep thinking, like, how many of those actually pan out the way they're supposed to be? I think, in mortgage, with similar to the real estate, there's more of a chance that the deal is not going to come together than it does, right? So if you're speaking to someone who potentially says, you know what, I'm looking to buy something, there's a greater chance that they're not going to buy something than they actually will, because there's a lot of work that goes into them finding something, and maybe prices. Like, there's just so many different factors that could kind of push them to not buy something instead.
There's a lot of variables. You're right, Daniel, 100%. And I think what you touched on something that was very interesting too, about like people getting their license, and like, because I got family, and if I do a couple of deals a year here and there, obviously, the requirements to get in to become a real estate agent now has changed significantly. I hope and I wish that they would do this in the mortgage industry, so that we could sort of make sure that everyone's at the same level. That's what I think the most important thing is. But you brought up a good point with, family. People get in there saying, oh, my dad, my mom, maybe my cousins, my sister's going to do it, and so I should get my license so I can help them out. The problem is if you get into this industry thinking that your family's going to use you at all times, not generally the case. A lot of times you'll find, even in our industries, that people know someone else, but maybe they don't want you knowing their financial situation. Maybe they don't want you knowing the reasons why. So I guess as like a little, nugget of information, if people are out there thinking, hey, I get into this industry, I have a big family, that they're going to use me, I learned, my mom said that to me as soon as you start. She goes, if you think all your friends are going to come to you and you're going to have this huge network, just think again. Don't count on it as what you're going to do to generate your money. You need to be hungry. You need to go out there. You got to figure out a way to build yourself. And that's the one thing I think, whether you're a real estate agent, mortgage agent, or any person in business, if you're self-employed, you have to find a system that works for you. If you like what you're hearing on the Financing Simplified podcast, we will be back with Daniel Sessa talking a little bit more. Daniel, where can they find you?
So you can find us on YouTube if you just search Team Sessa Real Estate. Just Google. Google. You can put out all the links, but just Google Team Sessa Real Estate. We're on all platforms. You can find us there.
Awesome. And you can find us obviously on YouTube as well. And we're also featured with Team Sessa Real Estate on their channel as well. But you can find us on Instagram. Don't forget, you can follow us on all forms of social media. And don't forget to leave us a comment in the comment sections below on YouTube. But we're going to leave the video here. Wishing everyone a great day, and we'll see you again soon.